Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio in Chicago, Illinois, it's time for Chicago Business Radio. Brought to you by FirmSpace, your private sanctuary for productivity and growth. To learn more, go to firmspace.com. Now, here's your host.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Chicago Business Radio. I'm your host, Max Cantor, and before we get started, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor for today's show. So a special thank you to FirmSpace for sponsoring today's episode, because without them, we couldn't be sharing these important stories that we do. And I have a great guest today, very interesting guest. He is the president and CEO of SupplyHive. So please welcome to the show, Lou Sandoval. Welcome to the show, Lou.
Hi, Max. How are you? Glad to be here.
Thanks you
for having me on the show.
Thank you for being here. I'm excited to kind of talk to you and learn all about SupplyHive and what you guys are doing. So to jump right in, what was the genesis of the idea of SupplyHive? How did you guys come about?
You know what? So the company was founded in 2018 by our founder, Mike Anguiano. Mike's a serial entrepreneur, much like myself. And he's done a couple successful exits in the supplier diversity space, the procurement space. So his last exit was then, for a company named CVM that was sold to a private equity firm and then later sold again. So, he's really steeped in knowledge. And I think really the genesis for SupplyHive was sort of like to kind of create sort of like a Moody's for procurement and for suppliers, sort of a rating system that gives a little more information on the different suppliers that a buyer or a company has, and just a way to improve the relationships using performance data.
So what does SupplyHive do exactly for its clients?
Simply put, I mean, if you kind of looked at our website and the like, we're a B2B cloud-based supplier performance management platform. What we really do is we provide visibility to performance data at scale for procurement teams at companies and their suppliers. By doing this, we enable growth and improved operating efficiency for those companies, and then obviously for the suppliers. So really, kind of we leverage the data that they exchange within each other, and they procure this data through surveys and just ratings of each other. So the supplier rates the company rates the supplier, and they use the information from that to develop an action plan on how to make them better.
What pains were suppliers having that SupplyHive solves?
Well, it's interesting because the pains are specific to a lot of the procurement to pay and source to pay suites that are out there, the ERPs, the very large legacy systems. They're in every major Fortune 100 company. The challenge with those systems is often the implementation we'll call it at the grassroots level, leaves much to be desired. And employees end up finding ways to work around the systems, and it ends up being very static data. So one of the things that has come out of the pandemic is obviously, the real big need to digitally transform many spaces, because one, personnel's tougher to come by, skilled personnel, but more importantly, two, the more that we can do across different platforms, especially with people working remotely, working from home, different locations and globally, the more we can do in a cloud-based type system, the better off it is. And the ability to do it at scale is even better. So, if I had to summarize it into two big pain points, one is the static capability of the existing systems, and two, the inability for those systems to operate dynamically and at scale.
Yeah, for sure. And you were talking a little bit about, the wide range of companies, I think. You mentioned companies that are working from home, companies that are in the office. So how does SupplyHive integrate into your client's business? And is it a challenge or difficult to do that with every business being so different?
No, it's really simple because, what they do is they're able to kind of so we have some drop-down features that they can kind of customize their KPIs, so their key performance indicators, and depending on what the specific company is looking to identify in their suppliers, they can take those ratings and then drive them across all suppliers. And that might be, so for example, that might be their their hardline suppliers, their tier 1 suppliers, and then their tier 2 suppliers are the ones that are focused more around services. And that's really where they're able to do that at scale. It really kind of helps them gather the data they need to, one, work more efficiently, two, improve the return on investment of, the spend. And, the average Fortune 100 company, spends a large portion of their gross revenue, goes right back out the door through their procurement arm, so that's why it's so important, because it's so tied to the revenue that comes into the company.
Do you have an ideal client or serve a certain industry, or are you industry agnostic?
We're very industry agnostic, and really at the end of the day, well, we're really focusing on 4 key verticals. We're focusing on consumer products right now, healthcare and biotech, financial services, and manufacturing. And 2 of those are really huge categories, obviously consumer products and manufacturing. But we've really kind of found some stickiness in some of those companies. We currently have some great relationships. Some of our clients, we boast to have, Abbott, McDonald's, Box, Centene, First Energy, Mars, Facebook, PaySafe, are some of the many customers that we have. So really kind of spread out. We're industry agnostic. We're really focused on the deliverables, and we're really keen on being a trusted partner to those companies.
And now, how does SupplyHive help your clients identify minority suppliers?
Well, here's the beautiful thing. We don't help them identify minority suppliers, but what we do is help by using data. We level the playing field, because data, think about it this way. If you're a large supplier, let's just say you're a big 3, every one of the Fortune 100 has the following suppliers somewhere in their top 50. Microsoft, they have a large law firm, they have probably a large consulting firm, an Accenture, an EY, a Deloitte, some of that sort. So think about it. If you're a diverse consulting firm, say you're an MBE or an MWE consulting firm, you don't have the resources to build those relationships and invest in those relationships that, say, an Accenture or a Deloitte or one of those larger firms might. But often what happens is that precludes the ability, by not looking at it objectively through performance data, it precludes their ability to grow as a supplier. So by focusing on the data, you actually level the playing field. You increase the depth of the relationship, because out of that, the surveys that we do with the different suppliers, large and small, they're able to get an action plan on how they can improve. So think of who benefits from that. The large companies, obviously, they can do a lot of that. The small companies now get a clear path to how they can actually improve the spend with them and improve their growth with the large company.
So we obviously can't talk about SupplyHive without mentioning kind of the havoc that COVID-19 created when it comes to the supply chain. So my question for you is simple. How does SupplyHive help?
Well, again, going back to the need for digital transformation, and nowhere was that more evident than needing, the ability to kind of look at suppliers really across the entire dashboard and looking at where they're strong in, where they're weak in, and how to make the weak ones stronger, how to make the mid performers stronger. And then for those that are big performers, you're able to identify, things that might be areas where you might not have considered the risk, cybersecurity risk. There's different things that you can do. Our platform kind of, you can measure on a variety of different things there. And really got to break down how to make those companies stronger and better. So on the back end of the pandemic, it really kind of helps give that insight, regardless of where you're at in the world, regardless of where the company focuses out of, in a digitally transformative way.
What are some trends in supply chain that you see in 2022 and maybe even beyond?
Really, the move towards digital transformation is one that's huge. It used to be that the procurement department was the unsung heroes in a company. Those are the guys that always negotiated the best contracts with vendors and the like, and they often didn't get since they were often on the other side of the balance sheet, they don't often get the notoriety that the revenue side gets, that the sales team might get, right? So what this has really kind of done is the pandemic has done, and more so the move towards procurement technology is really kind of, highlighted the importance of that procurement department in one, leveling the playing field for diverse suppliers, but two, leveling the playing field for large and small suppliers across the company's platform. So it really that it's really kind of been important for those companies to get those insights, which allows them to really kind of make changes on the fly.
Earlier, you mentioned some of the companies that have worked with you guys, like McDonald's, Mars, Facebook. Can you share a success story where SupplyHive took a client to a new level?
I'll take this anonymously. I'll share two with you. One is anonymous we'll call it in the consumer products category. So I won't name specifics, but this is a company that they wanted to evaluate pesticides across their entire supplier network. So they used our system to be able to kind of look at all their different suppliers and measure the amount of pesticides that were going into that. This is the data that went into sustainability, which is another trend when you look at the ESG measurements that companies are looking to have that they're having to report out in their proxy statements. So some of the data that we measure, DEI, supplier diversity, sustainability, in the case of this company, helps them in those particular areas. Another area that, we've seen some growth is for another large, we'll call it food company, we'll just say. And, we went in through their vendor management office. Then they helped us. Then they had us help them in their supplier diversity department. And then they, on the 1 year anniversary of George Floyd's murder, they had made some big proclamations in 2020. And on the 1 year anniversary of those proclamations, they said, listen, we've got to start putting our money where our mouth is. So let's measure DEI through our entire supplier network. And so they're using the SupplyHive platform to do just that. They have asked all of their suppliers to sign a pledge, and they're meeting them all where they're at. And the beautiful thing about that is it isn't a kind of a make wrong, but what they're really finding is they're giving them the resources, the tools to help them raise their game and get to a level that basically improves the supplier universe for all of them.
So, Lou, it sounds like SupplyHive is doing amazing work for the companies that you serve, but what do you need more of? Is it clients, talent, partners? How can we help?
Well, a little bit of both, I would say there's two key things: clients, so introductions, and we're working with a lot of different groups right now in introductions to companies that can use our platform. So that's one, and then collaborative partners is another one where we're kind of working on some collaborative partnerships and we'll call them co-opetition deals that'll help us expand our platform, expand our use case, and more importantly, improve the offering and deepen the offering to the companies that we serve and companies that we plan on serving. So those are two key areas. We just went through a little bit of a hiring spree on the tech side of our business, because of course, deepening the talent pool, deepening the product capabilities are important. So that's kind of one of our short-term goals, but our long-term goal is to continue to add logos, add accounts, add new customers.
Speaking of long-term goals, what's next for SupplyHive?
Well, right now we're gonna really kind of focus on growing our portfolio to hit 50, anywhere between 30 to 50 companies in the year 2022. And then that'll probably set us up and position us for a Series A raise. We just completed a seed round in 2021 that we finished up third quarter. So going in, I'll say almost a year from now, we'll be kind of in the midst of a Series A. And after we hit all of our metrics, and that I think is going to position us for a major explosion in size of company.
And if our listeners want to learn more about SupplyHive, where can they learn more online?
They can go to supplyhive.com, our website, and learn more about that. We're about to roll out a brand new website here in the next 4 weeks, so that we're very proud of that. And also, if you go to LinkedIn, any of our social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, we kind of cross post a lot of things. Our LinkedIn site has a lot of information on it as well. And, one of the cool things was that most recently we were named by one of the large consulting firms, Gartner. We were named as one of their cool vendors of 2021. So there's going to be some additional information that comes out of that here in the weeks to come. So they had some very glowing things to say about our technology and the platform and how we utilize tech and automation. And, I think that was a big feather in the SupplyHive cap.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on that. And Lou, thank you again for being a guest today on Chicago Business Radio.
All right. Thank you very much, Max. And I appreciate your hospitality.
It is not a problem at all. And thanks to you for listening to another great episode of Chicago Business Radio. I'm Max Cantor, and we'll see you next time.
This episode of Chicago Business Radio has been brought to you by FirmSpace, your private sanctuary for productivity and growth. To learn more, go to firmspace.com.